And so, okay, so yeah, so it sounds like Randa was having trouble, but so what I was doing, I was kind of going through this process to just use the curvature tool and drawing these new curves. So just in kind of connecting things as I draw them. And the key to doing this is making sure when you draw a curve with the curvature tool, I'm doing a couple things. I'm using the smart guides. So the smart guides are when you get close to a line or a curve and then the text comes up in magenta and it snaps. So it's letting me snap to another curve. And then when I'm done with the curve, I hit Shift Control A, and that's the shortcut for deselect. And then I select the curve again and I hit Control 2, and that's the shortcut for lock. And that just locks the curve in place so you can't move it and you can't adjust it. And if you want to find where lock is, it's here under Object. You select a curve, you can go to Object, you click Lock, or you can use Control 2. That's the shortcut. So I'm drawing these curves, just kind of creating this like random design. And so the process is draw the curve, deselect it, select it again, Control 2, lock it, use the curvature tool again, and use the smart guides to kind of snap on to other curves. Oh, that curve wasn't locked, so that's why it did what it did. And then once I get like something that's somewhat interesting here, I'm gonna select all these and make sure they're locked. I think I'll draw one more curve. Okay, so that's interesting enough. So once I get something, actually I want to draw one more. I want to kind of close this one off. Okay, I think that's good enough. All right, so I have this kind of abstract, organic shape here. And then once I'm done, I'm going to go and unlock them all. So I want to unlock everything. So I'm going to go back into my layers and I'm going to find what's locked. I'm just going to unclick the locks. And now I'm going to go back and select what I have here. Make sure they're all unlocked. So yes, these are all unlocked. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take any type of shape, like I'll take a circle, and I'll just throw that anywhere on top of this random selection of curves I've created. And then I'm going to go into Pathfinder and I'm going to click on divide. So the top shape is going to divide all the shapes below it. And then I get this. So now it kind of took that abstract pattern and put it within a circle. So it has this kind of nice boundary to it. And then I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to use my live paint to paint the inner parts of the shapes. So I'll go into Object, Live Paint, and hit Make. And now I can go into this live paint. And what I want to do now is, with this abstract shape, I'm going into Adobe Color theme, and I'm picking a range of color combinations. So for this one, this is using the shades. So it's using that shades combination. And I'll use my live paint bucket. And the shortcut for that is K. So now I can kind of go in, and one thing I have to make sure is I have a color there. So part of this is to take the color theme that I like, hit the swatch button here, and then send that to my swatches. And where did my swatches go? They're all the way over here. So I have my swatches here. So down here, that's the color theme. And then I'm going to select just different colors. And use that live paint bucket to fill it in. And then
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
Is there a password where it says, please enter the meeting password?
Oh, Randa, is that you?
Yeah, I'm still on the phone. I'm asking if there is a password for, because I'm doing all over the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Installing.
Yeah, so here. So let me do this. But you're in Zoom, you're just on the phone in Zoom. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the phone with them. I'm still trying. So now they're asking for a password. If
yes,
that solves the problem.
Here's the password.
Mm-hmm.
So I just set it. Oh, you can't. Hold on. So.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. So you can't do chat because you're on the phone.
Did you text it in the chat section?
Yeah. Let me do that. Randa, are you signed up on Discord?
I am, yeah.
Okay, go into Discord and I can send you the password and it'll be easier.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I just sent it to you via Discord.
Perfect. I see it.
Perfect. Yeah, you see
Thank
that?
you so much. I'm sorry for the interruption. Yeah, I did see it.
Oh, no worries. It's
Thank
you know, we got it all figured out. So, okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
So here in this example now, I have what I want to do one last time though is I want to have none set for the strokes. So I don't like the stroke being black. So I'm just kind of creating these abstract designs. And I like to use the curvature tool that way because it quickly lets me get something that's nice and organic looking. And then in combination with Pathfinder Divide and the live paint tool, lets me fill it in nicely. The live paint tool is kind of necessary because let me show you quickly if you don't use the live paint tool. I'm just going to draw a bunch of curves again. Kind of do this quickly.
I'm in. But I can't.
Okay.
I can't hear you though.
Yeah,
I can.
You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing.
Okay, I just muted you, Randa. Okay. All right, so okay, you're in. All right, good. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. This is a thing where I like to use live paint in combination with Pathfinder because I used to try to make these abstract shapes really quickly in Illustrator. And before live paint, it was really hard because what would happen was I'd use Divide, but Divide wouldn't actually create any shapes for me. So if I add a couple more curves, lock them. Okay, so let's say I have a circle on top here. And then I go and use Divide in my Pathfinder. Oh, I didn't unlock them all. I want to make sure I unlock all of these. Okay, I'll go back. Use Divide. Now, what the live paint tool does is it ensures that all these shapes that are created through the Divide are fillable. If I don't use the live paint tool and let's say I try to select a shape with the direct selection tool, it recognizes some of them. actually, it doesn't do. This did a pretty good job of recognizing the shapes, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get shapes that aren't recognized, and live paint just makes it easier to fill in those shapes. So if I go back here now and go into Object, Live Paint, first I'll select everything, Object, Make, and then use that Live Paint tool. It's just, for me, it's just faster to use that Live Paint tool. So this is what you can think about for your assignment too with the restaurant logos, is how you can maybe combine some shapes together and then use live paint with that. But the other thing I'd like to do now that I have it all set with like this design, I will start to play with the color themes. So this is kind of like a repeat of what we did last time. So if I select my shape here and it's using a particular color palette, okay, that's fine. But let's say I want to use something totally different. So I'll go up into color themes, which is here, and then I'll start to play with different variations. So analogous, right here, let's say I have colors that are close to each other. The hues are occupying a very similar space on the color wheel. I like that combination, so I'll click the Add to Swatches. It adds it. If I have my artwork selected and I double click on the group icon for the swatches, it brings up this edit dialog and it automatically changes that color combination to the color theme that I created the swatches for. So now I have analogous colors. I don't even have to play with any of these features in here. If I just want to quickly change something based on the color wheel, that's the way to do it. So I'll do it again now. I'll pick monochromatic. So one of your designs, I want it to be monochromatic. So I'll just duplicate this. And then I will decide on a monochromatic theme. So I'll keep it within the same hue range, but maybe I'll adjust the sliders here to get a range. And then I'll hit the swatch button again. It's right down here. I'll double click the folder. Then it automatically applies it to the artwork that I want to make the color change to, that I want to edit the colors. So I will do it again, duplicate it, and then I will pick triad. You know, so if I like that, hit the swatches. It appears down here in my swatch panel, double click the folder, and then it applies that one. So triad was another one I wanted you to explore. So I wanted you to explore triad, monochromatic, and then this other idea was for the two colors, you can use complementary. So I'm calling it a duotone. So duotone, two colors. So you can explore the complementary color in the color wheel too for that one. And it's the same process. I'll actually duplicate this. And then I will hit the icon, add the swatches. It's right there. Double click the folder. And now that's using the complementary color scheme. And then the last one for the assignment was a quad tone. And I actually was saying add black as one of the colors too. So you can go into pick compound, and for one of these colors, you can drag the circle down here all the way to black. There's your black. And then to make it 4 colors, I can do something like this. So now I dragged one circle on top of each other. And let's see. So I have black. I have 4 colors here. I guess that's okay if you want to have 4 colors with this. And then I'll hit the swatches again. And it's the same idea. Once the swatches are in the swatch palette, double-clicking the folder is what applies it and what automatically recolors the artwork. So that is the that's a quick way for you to take your designs and to apply it quickly. So I just kind of wanted to show you that because I like this whole idea of creating these types of designs that have the flowing curves and everything kind of flows and connects together. So I thought that was kind of like a, it's a fun exercise in creating something that has a cohesive feel to it, especially with that curvature tool and how everything can kind of flow and connect. So that's kind of the process too with locking down the artwork. Now, does everybody have Illustrator now? Is everybody good with Illustrator? I know Alexis, you should be good now. I think everybody's set now. The link that I sent, and I'll show you the link. Let's see. So I sent a link. I sent it in the email and I sent it in Zoom. So I sent it both ways. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. I think if I drink something, it'll stop me. So here is that link. Where is that link? I thought I sent it through here. Here's the instructions to access Creative Cloud. So if you have, if you're paying for the Creative Cloud, maybe you can pause it, not pay for it. If you're doing the monthly plan, click on this link. And this link goes through the steps of getting that version using your Pasadena City College email. And I almost think it's the same steps that you would use anyways. But here, I think the main thing is you click on continue with Gmail and then log in using a Pasadena City College email and not necessarily a Gmail. So that's the trick, I guess. So as long as you have a PCC email, that's how you can get into it. So just to make sure everybody knows that. So some people had questions. So I know, Randa, did you try that?
I have it. I already.
But you have it already, okay.
I already have it. And they gave me extension for 3 months.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. That's good. So, okay, Daniel, I know I'm going to send you a text. Daniel, is your Creative Cloud working? So Daniel, let me know. I know you and Alexis were the two that were still trying to get that figured out. So just let me know. And okay, so a couple questions for live paint. Alexa's asking, do you have to select the area you want to paint first and then go into live paint? So the way it works is you select what you want to have made into a live paintable object. So I'll do this with so I'm going to grab a bunch of circles here. I'm going to go into Pathfinder and I'm going to divide them all up. So you don't really see the divisions too well because they're all the same color. But if I select everything, I go into Object and I go into Live Paint and I go to click Make. So you have to make it a live paintable object for live paint to work. And then if I go into the live paint bucket here, even though everything's the same color, what's nice about the live paint paint bucket tool is that it highlights what is going to be live paintable. So that is how you can see what you can add using a new color. So if I go into my swatches here, that highlighting is telling me, oh, okay, that's a live paintable area. So when you're using live paint itself, the actual paint bucket, you don't have to select, well, if nothing's selected and then I go into live paint, you don't have to select it. So basically it's identifying what can be changed and then you click. I don't have to use the selection tool to select it and then go into live paint, but it still works. So having something that's not selected is not an issue. Live paint will still work if it's not selected. So I think that answers your question. And the whole idea is that the highlighting tells you, okay, I can paint it then. One more thing with live paint tool, if I have two objects that overlap and I select those two objects and then I go into live paint make and then I go into the paint bucket tool, I didn't do any type of Pathfinder operation. So technically these two things, if I use my direct selection tool, they're two separate shapes, right? But live paint will still identify those intersections. So, you know, find the intersection in between. And then if I take one of these objects and I move it around, it still keeps that live paint section active, which is pretty cool. So you can kind of adjust things. In a way, it's acting like a compound path as you're moving around. So that's kind of the cool thing about live paint is you can change the position of something after you've created it and made it live paintable. So you really don't even need to use the Pathfinder tools if you don't want to, which is really nice. So that's kind of a nice feature. And even if you add more shapes and then I can go back and select live paint again under object, it will still recognize all the objects.
Hey Joe,
Yeah.
why do you need to use Pathfinder for what?
If I wanted, I was using Pathfinder because I was just using it as a way to crop out some different shapes. So
which one of the Pathfinder you're gonna use? The divide one?
yeah, I was using divide. So here I have a rectangle on top of my shapes. I select all, oops. I select everything and then I go into Pathfinder divide. works like really for this circumstance, I want to probably use Pathfinder crop. It seems to be acting a little funny though. Try it again. Use Pathfinder crop. You know, it doesn't like it with that live paint. So if I go into this object that I had live paint applied to, then I will go into live paint here and hit release. So live paint is no longer being used. And now I can go back, add a shape, and then use crop in Pathfinder. Then it works. Actually, or divide. Let's see here. Yeah, it divides these into separate shapes. So now I can go back, let's say, and use live paint again. So it's just depending on how you want to create something and have those connections connect. I was using divide with the Curvature tool. You could also use it with other tools like here I'm just creating a bunch of arcs. And then I'll take a shape, put it on top. So if I have a bunch of lines and you don't have connected shapes, then you use divide. It basically crops out the end of the lines. And this is a circumstance where if I select these different shapes, like I guess it's doing a good job, but here, yeah, it's doing a good job selecting the forms of the shapes. But if you have gaps and stuff, you know, live paint may see how the gaps form shapes or it may not. So if I select this, go into object, live paint, make, and then use my live paint bucket tool, that gap is too big. If I double click on the paint bucket tool, let's see. Actually, I'm going to go into object, live paint gap options, and then go into custom and see if I can make that gap bigger. It doesn't really, it still doesn't recognize it. I think it needs a line to connect to.
So you use Pathfinder to divide the colors, like to allocate the colors where you want them to be?
Well, I'm using it with if I'm drawing a bunch of lines, I'm using it to crop out the ends of lines so that it fits within a shape. So yeah, I'm using it in that, I'm drawing what I want to create, and then I'm using the Pathfinder to crop out the lines that go over the boundaries of that shape that I'm using to crop out everything. So that's kind of like a technique that I just wanted to show you. So does anybody have, for assignment 5, how are you guys doing? Does everybody have sketches to show? Because I kind of want to go through your sketches and see how you're thinking about it, kind of like I did with the onomatopoeia exercise. So how many of you have sketches that you can share that we can look at? And if you do, I think it's easy to put them in Discord. So Alexis, you put them there. Randa, you put yours in there. So I just want to go through these. And part of this exercise now too is really exploring the text relationship with the object that you're creating in the composition. So here, I don't know. Okay, so here, Randa, so you have a concept for a restaurant called Icicles Creamery.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I want you to do, though, instead of just jumping in to the idea,
Mm-hmm.
I really want you to explore the variations of the text and image combination, and don't get stuck on one idea. So you use thumbnails, use like a thumbnail technique to create concepts that you can work with. So for example, with what I was doing for the concepts that I was coming up with in last class is I was drawing out simple shapes first, and then thinking about how the words kind of fit within those shapes. So, so your concept is called Icicles Creamery. Is that what?
Uh-huh.
So before you start to just think like, oh, this is the final look, what you have right now is something like this. You have image and then Icicles Creamery. So this is kind of like the shapes that you're using.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. So up in here is your ice cream, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
the text. This is your basic concept. So it's basically like the, this is like the structure of it. Yeah, that's the idea. Shape, text, but I kind of want you to explore variations to see how you can push this idea. So, maybe it's text, shape, text, or in terms of a logo, the text part is the signature, and
What do you mean when you say signature?
signature is the text in a logo. So a good example of a logo and a signature would be, let me think of, like the restaurant, the Olive Garden, let's say. Mm-hmm. So the words Olive Garden, the text in the logo, you would call that the signature.
Okay.
I think the Olive Garden logo might have like a pasta bowl, an image. So that's the logo type. So the image is the logotype, signature is the text. You know, like the Citibank logo.
Yeah.
If you have Citibank underneath the image, the text, Citibank, the words, that's your signature. The image is the globe or whatever image Citibank uses. That's your logotype.
Like
So,
Target also.
yeah, Target. Yeah, underneath the 3 circles, the Target symbol shape is the words Target. So Target, the word Target, that's the signature. The logotype is the Target symbol itself.
Okay.
But what you end up doing with this type of idea when you're developing these types of logos, what you end up doing to yourself is immediately going for something like this. You know, this is the first thing that would come to mind. The idea that the text has to be underneath the image, which doesn't necessarily have to be like that. It can be however you want it to be. So, so what I'm trying to stress is explore relationships before you just decide that like that initial concept is the one concept.
Okay.
Because what this is trying to train you to do too is to think about the design before you just start going into Illustrator. You know, you don't want to just jump into the computer and start creating. It's good to formulate a plan by developing a series of thumbnails. These are what, you know, this is the exact idea of what a thumbnail is. It's like a series of small drawings to help formulate what the final concept of a design is going to be. But I would do a bunch of these shape exercises first before you even get into this more finalized version. So do simple shape thumbnails first. And what's kind of fun about them is once you have a concept for this icicle company, you know, Icicle's Creamery, you have the bowl with the ice cream in it. It'd be interesting to explore these relationships because then you may be able to come up with different logotypes that have a feel that works with the balance and the structure that you're establishing by doing different things with the signature. So, you know, let's say here with this one, you have I put that circle there. What if that circle was just like a big scoop of ice cream and making it drip, and then you have, you know, icicles, creamery.
Well, in the background, I'm thinking that I need 5 colors, 5 or 4 colors to use.
It's monotone, so one hue with a series of shades. Duotone.
So 1 color, 2 colors, and then 4 colors or 3 colors.
Yeah, and I was saying quad-tone. So one hue. So just because I say monotone, it's can have multiple colors. It's just you're using one hue, and a hue is basically what you call the true color. It's a color that goes around the color wheel. You know, so you have these circles, and those are your hues. Hues opposite of each other are your complementary colors. Those are where the 2 colors work together to achieve a balance. So that's complementary right there. But then you have a triad. You have different types of color rules. You can say the rules. So even though I could say monotone, you can explore the color theme, either monochromatic here. That's monochromatic. I should really say monochromatic. Or you can explore the shades as well.
Since we're here, how do you create an extra like circle around here if you want to add more colors?
Oh, here?
Uh-huh.
You'd have to pick the one that is called custom.
Uh-huh.
But in this color wheel, you're only limited to 5 anyways. So custom lets you add a color anywhere.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
By just dragging one of them.
Yeah, by just dragging one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can use that color wheel to help you too. But what I'm saying here is don't get stuck with this idea that the image has to go on top of the text and the text kind of becomes like the pedestal for the image to rest on. You know, explore all these different, it's kind of fun to explore all these different variations as you're working.
Yeah.
You can come up with. So,
okay.
You know, you can, you know, maybe you have one part of the logo go one direction, another part go this direction, and then, you know, that's your logo type. You know, so there's probably all these different variations, but do the thumbnails first to come up with what you are going to do before you jump in and decide that the ice cream in the bowl is the best solution.
You mean the thumbnail, which is like related to the picture itself, or to the written?
The composition of the final picture.
Okay.
Because I'm telling you, you know, this thumbnail here is represented by the image. And then I have text going across, and then text going up and down. So, you know, this is icicles up here. And then, you know, I don't know how you can play with it.
Okay, I'll look it up.
It is an exploration.
Uh-huh.
Something like that. So, you know, you don't have, you can do all sorts of stuff. Like you can have arrangements like this. Let's say the circle is the image, rectangles are the text. Maybe you have text inside.
And the distribution of colors, where would they go in this case?
Well, create your color palette, your color theme, and then once you have it established in Illustrator, you can save it. So here, let's say this is the one I picked. You hit save, and it'll ask you what library you want to save it into. I got this one called Experiments for some reason. Hit save, and then I can always refer back to it. So it's under My Themes. You go into Experiments, and right here, that was the one. Here's the one from last time. You know, so it keeps track of all this stuff for you. But, you know, make sure like you are exploring, and then the logo itself, you know, so some of your earlier assignments, like the I kind of make yourself into an icon assignment. There's extra details that you might not need. So think about using negative space. Every single line doesn't have to connect to each other, you know, so try to see how you can refine and simplify it as much as possible. But the key is the simplicity of it.
Okay.
So you may not need 3 scoops of ice cream, or you may not even need a bowl. Maybe you just have 3 scoops of ice cream floating in space. And then it says icicles creamery. You know, think about just the idea that you don't have to really be bounded by reality at all. You can kind of explore some,
Okay.
interesting ideas out of it.
Okay.
Let's see. Does anybody else have sketches? So let's see, Alexis. So do you want me to go look at yours, Alexis? Talk about it? Just waiting for her to respond. Can you hear me, Alexis? Can you guys hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. So let's see, Alexis. So let's look at yours. So what are your concepts, Alexis? Do you want to explain some of these, what you want to work on for this?
So I was just, hear me?
Mm-hmm. I can hear you.
So for that one, I was basically trying to come up with a few of different names because it was just hard to come up with a specific name to go with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that could be a challenge, just coming up with the names. What's your for your restaurant? What is it? What type of restaurant is it?
Well, it's where I suppose like fitness people, bodybuilders, and stuff like that would go.
Okay. And why is there's one with a chicken head?
Yeah, bodybuilders like chicken. It's a lean meat.
No.
Yeah, chicken breast is like the best thing to eat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They'll eat like 10 chicken breasts. Like that's normal, right? Or like.
Yeah. I was going for more of that type of thing.
Grow your muscles.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Powerhouse Kitchen. Plant protein is a plant. Is that a guy with a plant head, a flower head?
Yeah.
Flower man. I think any one of these. The chicken man is pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna end up with a chicken guy.
And the idea is you have this image, and the image needs to represent the restaurant. Now, the chicken head, that's cool, but the mascot doesn't necessarily have to be an animal. The whole idea of having like a muscular arm, maybe that's your mascot, is the arm itself.
Okay, because I wasn't too sure if I could just do something like really cool like that.
Yeah, no, you can. So it's like any image that represents the restaurant is kind of what I'm calling the mascot. So you could just have that arm flexing and use, Powerhouse Kitchen is pretty good.
Yeah, that was my first pick on that.
Yeah, the other ones are more, they kind of describe what these would be if they were products.
Yeah.
Open up, energy drink or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those aren't like place names, but Powerhouse Kitchen, you got 2 place names in there, house and kitchen. So that fits as a restaurant type idea, but you just need the muscle. That's all you really need. So it's like you have, you don't need, unless you want to keep the chicken head.
Well, no, because I wasn't sure if like an actual mascot, but if it was something simple, then yeah, I was just gonna go for something like just the arm, basically.
Right. Yeah, yeah, just go for the actual arm.
Okay.
And then again though, explore variations. So like Powerhouse, you know, kitchen, it's like how does that work with the arm? I don't know if you have to overlap things. So like here,
Are you drawing something?
oh, yeah, you can't see me. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, here it's like right, the muscle, and then you figure out which way your text goes. Does it go, you know, Powerhouse, kitchen, you know, does the arm break through the wall?
Yeah, that looks cool.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But think about how you stack the information too. So, you know, maybe if you're you know, if your muscle was like that, what if you had maybe, you know, text do something like that? I mean, it's kind of play with different variations.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow, this is looking good.
You know, it's the different ways of doing it. So yeah, it's kind of fun to work with the muscle guys too. So
Yeah.
what if like your text was kind of set like this? And then like you know, I don't know. You like
Oh yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
She's done with her assignment.
That's why I want you to sketch first, because you don't know, you know what I mean? You don't know what ideas you're going to come up with as you're sketching. And it's just kind of like a fun way
Oh
to
yeah.
go about it. But then when you bring it into Illustrator, you know, that's where you can really start to refine it, you know? So, you know, the curves would be really refined for the muscle shape, you know, the hand shape. Even like the cracks on the wall would be more refined. And try to keep it minimal. You know, that if you keep it minimal, it's gonna you're gonna have to think about working with negative space and the idea that every line doesn't have to connect. Like I don't have to close off the arm here. I can just end it, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like I don't have to do this with the arm itself. You know, I can just kind of, I don't have to connect it. I can just, the mind will automatically make that connection for you. Then you got to think in terms of color now. So now that you're dealing with color is, if you don't close it, then you're not going to have color on the inside of that. Or you probably could, but maybe the outlines of the arm itself have that like thickness to it, so it's stylized. When you bring it into Illustrator, you would use your pen tool to draw out this kind of curve shape. And then that's part of the muscle, and then
So question, if I did want to add color inside the muscle, would I have to make a line with no fill stroke and then color it that way? Because before you had the gap, but it didn't want to do a big enough gap to fill the separate area.
Yeah, you could do it. You can trick it with the gap too. So there's ways to trick it, but let me bring this into Illustrator so I just know what you're trying to tell me.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the artwork. So you're saying is, let's say you did want to fill it in, but now you have this big gap. Like, how do you fill it in now, right? Is that what you're kind of asking?
Yeah.
That's easy. So you think in terms of like layers. So let's go and just kind of create this. So I'm going to make my layers a little bit bigger. And then double click on this, make it a template, dim the image, and then lock it, then create a new layer, and then I'll draw it out real quickly. So I just use the pen tool. Make it black here. So what you could do is have one layer represent the muscle, but when you draw the vectors, you actually close it. And then you can fill it, but just don't give it an outline at all. And then you have the layer
Okay.
that has the black outline. So now you could, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you can go and back here
That makes sense.
and do it like that. So yeah, so I'm just kind of.
So why you're putting them into different layers?
Because she wants to have this have outlines, but have there be outline the shape, but have there be gaps in the shape as well.
So the stroke.
So you have like that outline of the arm.
Like on one side? Oh, okay, both of them.
I mean, you would do a much better job. I'm just kind of doing this quickly. Yeah, so you have a gap
Yeah.
down here, and then you have a gap up there, and then you have the arm itself. Now, you can't recognize this really as an arm, so it probably needs a little bit more work, but that's the idea, Alexis, right? You use layers down below as your fill, and then layers
Yeah.
above as your outline.
Okay.
How did you get the top one where like you, is this like what's that?
Oh, I just drew it with the pen tool really quickly.
No, I know what the top one was. It also a stroke, the one that you made it like?
Yeah, this is a stroke.
No, in the control bar. Yes, one more. Go to the right, one more. Yes.
Oh, this?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this kind of adds a stroke on top of a stroke.
Oh.
And the bottom stroke guides it, but the top stroke can have some dimension to it. So it's
How did you create that one?
it's all presets. So if I open this up, there's a bunch of them.
Oh, I see. That's interesting.
Yeah. So these are the actual vectors, you know,
Uh-huh.
that are being used.
Nice.
So you get like a nice variety to the curve.
And I was thinking while you're drawing this, like you can do it on one side. When you did it on the top, it looked really nice. You don't even need to do the bottom one. It gave like really that shadow, the black one.
Yeah, it's up to you. So you decide how you want to do it. But Alexis was saying, how do I have an opening without having an outline going all the way around? And that's how you use layers, you strategize.
Oh, I see. Now I got you. Okay, now I know why you did two layers. Okay.
Yeah. So does anybody have any other thumbnails or sketches that they want me to go over? Anybody else? So try to get those sketches done. Is there any questions about the colorization process and using live paint and the color themes in Adobe? Oh, I see a bunch of stuff coming through. So who is Crowman? Which one of you is Crowman? Is it Caesar? Caesar. That makes sense. Yeah, it's Caesar. All right. There you go. Sorry. Had to figure it out. Okay, so yeah, so with this too, let's show this to everybody. So donut time.
This has the signature in.
So Caesar has two concepts for donut time. So yeah, the donut is the logotype. The actual image of the donut is the logotype, and donut time is the signature. And that's kind of clever how you have the T being the same there. And that's the variation of it. So with this, I think the donut, from a simplicity standpoint, have it so we recognize it as a donut. Like this kind of gets lost. That whole generic donut shape is gone. Just stick with that. I think stick with this. And then simplify the donut too. It doesn't have to have a cutaway, you know, but it can still have the sprinkles. If you have a piece taken out of it, maybe you don't even include that piece taken out. So you could, you know, maybe donut time is like, this is where you can explore a lot of variations. So You know, you don't need to do like the 3D part of it where you notice somebody ate some of it. Keep it super simple and then explore different text in different directions. You know, donut time like that. You know, it could be like that. Maybe both are going down like that. See, so it's an opportunity just to explore all these different variations. So donut time comes like this. You know, there's your donut. So keep it super simple, but explore variations so you're not always sticking with the standard, you know, donut with text underneath. So see what else you can explore. Try to keep things like representational in terms of what they are. So yeah, if you put the donut on the side, this is what a donut looks like on the side, and you don't recognize it. So donut's pretty iconic. You can put a circle somewhere, and somebody's gonna see it as a donut. You know, it's a pretty simple shape to play with. So it's the relationship between the shape and the type that you really got to think about. But doing a lot of thumbnails first is going to be a good way to go about it. So let's see, anybody else with does that help you, Caesar? So really explore before you get into the whole bring it into Illustrator phase. You know, explore more up front before you just jump into Illustrator. So any other questions about the assignment? So one thing I want you to think about too is maybe perspective. So you can also play with one point perspective. You know, this is donut time. And the way you can play with this in Illustrator is to use the perspective tools in Illustrator. So you can play with perspective a little bit. And in Illustrator, you have this perspective grid, which is located right over here. So it's the perspective grid tool. And the moment that you click on it, you get this grid. And the way it works is if you look in the upper left-hand corner, there's this cube. And you have blue for, you know, the left side. You have green for the bottom, and you have red for the right side. So red, green, blue are colors that represent RGB. So here on this part of the grid, it's here it's red, blue, and green. And then once you create this grid here, and you can see that that green is selected down below, you can you know that if you create something, it's going to go on to that part of the perspective grid. So if I click my rectangle tool and I drag it out, it's dragging out to the floor of the grid. That's the Z plane. If I change this cube now, so I can hit 1, that's the left side, 2 is the bottom, 3 is the right side. So I'll go back, hit 1, And if I want to add something to this grid on the side, I can use my shape tool. Now it's on the side. And I just hit 3 to get the right side there. And now I can do that with the right side. To use it with type, I can drag these things out a little bit so we can apply type, let's say. There's the grid tool, and then there's a perspective selection tool. If you grab that object you created on the grid with the perspective selection tool, you can keep on pushing it out like that. You can push it in and push it out. The type tool, if I hit T and I try to type on that perspective grid, it doesn't work. So the way you want to use type is to actually here, donut. So I'm just going to type it out using the type tool by typing on anywhere but the grid. And then, let's see. And then let's say I have donut, and I will make this let's see, the word donut, and I want to change the font here. Yeah, I use DIN condensed. So donut, duplicating that word, and then time. So now if I use my perspective selection tool, and I hover over it, it's going to be in perspective in that area. Now, one of the things I like to do is increase the scale of something like this. So you can't do it by default. It will break the grid. It won't work anymore. What you need to do is use your perspective selection tool to select the type and then scale it up or do other things to it. But that will only work if I have view and show bounding box turned on. So, oh, it's turned on. So as long as this has a bounding box, what you can do is you can grab a corner and then you can scale up donut. It's huge. I can drag it out. It's still in perspective. So donut. Now I want to add the word time to the red part of the grid, or that's my X plane. So I hit 3. So the little grid up there is in red. And then I can do the same thing with this. I can use my selection tool. Now it's getting stuck to the grid. Grab a corner. And that's using the perspective tool to get some sort of type effect. Here, I'd even put my donut like maybe over there. So here, use the ellipse tool. And to get the donut, I'm just going to increase the stroke. And then I want that donut in perspective, so I'm going to grab, let's see, is it in perspective? Oh, I want it to be in the, on the Y plane. So if you look at the tool, there's a little arrow pointing to the right. That's symbolizing it's going in the right direction. If I hit 1, now it's going in the direction that I want. And what I might have to do too is just recreate it. So I'm going to draw a new circle. And then double check it. Yeah, it's still going. I want it to go on the other plane, the blue plane, but oh. Let me just try it again. I'm gonna hit 1 to go in the blue section, blue plane. There, I want it to be like that. And then once you're done with using the perspective grid, you go into the view, perspective grid, height grid. So that's a variation using perspective, using the perspective grid. Any questions about using that tool? So let's see. So everybody, we're finishing up the restaurant logos. So one last thing. Well, I think that's good enough for now. I'm going to talk more about perspective on Thursday, and then I'm going to talk about gradients. But the gradients, you're not using it for this assignment, because if I use a gradient, then I'm using a full range of color from the 2 gradients, the 2 colors that make up the gradient. And I don't want you to use a full range of color. I just want you to stick with the limited color palette. But if you want to talk about gradients, I'll talk about them on Thursday.
Next week is off, right?
Next week is spring break. So what I want you guys to do is, everybody's doing really good. There's some really nice designs. I started to grade some of the earlier assignments. I like what everybody's doing. So for next week, that's a good time for everybody to catch up. If you missed an assignment, try to get those assignments back in. And I want to kind of go through the onomatopoeia assignment. I don't know if I've gone through that with everybody. But while you're gone on spring break, I want to work on creating the font. I remember talking about how I want to take some of your designs and turn it into a font. So create a series of like dingbat, they call them like dingbat characters or emojis. Turn your designs in a class into like an emoji font. So I kind of want to work on that and show you the tools to do that on Thursday. And that's kind of something I'll be working on spring break while you guys are trying to catch up. But everybody should be caught up after spring break. And then we'll start to talk about InDesign. So now that I know that everybody has Creative Cloud, what I want to do is talk about InDesign and some of the tools in InDesign. That will be after spring break. So is there any questions about anything? So anybody have any more sketches to submit? So work on your sketches. I think Randa, Caesar, and Alexis now, you have enough ideas. So start to finalize them and then just work on the color variations.
I'm gonna change it totally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to do the thumbnails, because then you'll be inspired to change it, right?
Yeah.
So you just kind of draw everything out all at once and say you're done. I don't think you've given yourself enough opportunity to explore variations in the design.
But I would like your opinion when I share them with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is that assignment due?
It was due, like I didn't realize it was spring break, so I actually had it due on April 17th, but we can make it due on the day that we get back from spring break. So, I mean, your spring break, what are you guys going to do anyways, right? It's like, it's just right now. So
Nothing, basically.
Thank
like,
you.
why even have a spring break? But I guess it's just an opportunity to catch up. I know some people have finals too. So if you have finals in other classes, you know, maybe you decide, oh, I'm not going to work on the design assignment and I'll wait. That's fine. So it's good time to get organized and kind of finish some things. What we can do on spring break though, if you guys want to do like one-on-one Zoom sessions. So I do it with my other class where you just tell me when you want to meet and we'll do like a one-on-one class and we'll kind of work out some of the ideas that you're trying to figure out with your designs.
That's great.
So yeah, you just tell me when you want to do it and we can just meet up and do a one-on-one session.
Perfect.
So that can be helpful, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I went through your iconicize assignment where you turn yourself to an icon. I thought all of those were really good. There's some good examples. The most important thing to think about though is the simplicity of the design. You know, don't get carried away with a lot of detail. Try to make it simple so it just conveys the right amount of information with the least amount of information. So you don't need to draw things that have lots of detail. You know, try to go through a process where you simplify it as much as possible. That's kind of like my critique with some of the assignments. You try to add all this detail. Well, you got to think in terms of like, okay, negative space, lines don't have to connect all the time. If they're close enough to each other, your line will fill in the gap. You know, stuff like that. So any other questions about anything? So for this assignment, it will be due, today is 7th. I actually had it due next Thursday. But instead it will be due on the 21st. That'll be the first Tuesday that we get back. We still have Thursdays left, but it'll be due April 21st. And then starting April 21st, we will go over InDesign.
Fun.
All right, well, if nobody has any questions, I was going to end the lecture here. And anybody else? Yeah, okay, so everybody's like, okay. So think about your color combinations, use the color themes, play with live paint, you know, see how you can create good thumbnails, do a lot of sketching. And then for Thursday, if you didn't bring in a thumbnail sketch, you know, for this project, bring it in on Thursday, send it into Discord. I think that's easier, and then we can go over it on Thursday's class. So, all right, then I guess we'll call it a night. And does that sound good?
Thank you, Joe.
So,
yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
Bye.
All right. Have a good night, and then I'll post this recording, and I'll talk to you guys on Thursday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Bye.